Hey everybody, this is Creative Karma and welcome back to my room. I know it's been quite a while since I've actually done a video here, but there's been so much crazy stuff going on in my real life. I just have not had the time, and I didn't have the energy or the drive or anything. But lately, I've been through some new stuff that I think you guys should know about, especially in the autism area, which I like to talk about because that is my life and it pretty much drives everything I do on a daily basis. But in recent days, I've been trying to go through Voc Rehab again to get a job. Now, again, I don't have much hope for these guys because they really didn't help me last time because I'm just not in their wheelhouse of people, which I will explain a little bit about that because with them, a lot of the times me being a graduated college student with a English degree doesn't really fit into the mold of the people they actually think they're going to be working with. They assume people who are disabled either are in a wheelchair or they have some sort of mental disability that makes them not as smart as the rest of people, and they have a hard time comprehending and understanding. But when they meet somebody like me who is really smart but has a social disorder, which is, i.e., Asperger's syndrome, that now we just have to call autism spectrum disorder, just they don't get. They have no knowledge, no clue. So it's unfortunate, but I think that's something that the government, the people that we are going to for help, need to know more about, and that's sort of where I'm going with all this stuff today, because there was a class that I was told that would be a good one for me, that everybody could take, and it would be great for anybody to have, and that sort of was my big red flag. It said, oh, wait a minute, this doesn't sound like something for me, because if it's for everybody, then how is it going to be relevant to someone like me who has a diagnosed disability? And I've actually got 3 of them, technically. So is it going to even apply to me in any way? Does it have anything about it that would help me be less socially awkward, help with my lack of understanding body language and social cues, and where does this take me? Or is it something that's just general knowledge and almost anybody could use it? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about today. The class is called W.R.A.P, and it's an abbreviation, W.R.A.P, and it actually does stand for Wellness Recovery Action Plan. Well, they actually do literally come up with an action plan, which I will get to. And now I will stop here for a moment and go, it was not helpful for me in my current situation. However, it would be helpful to somebody else. I can see how it might be helpful to some people who are maybe at the beginning of their learning process about learning about themselves with disability. I'll cover over that in just a second. But for me personally, it was not helpful. It was not a reasonable sort of class that really gave me tools that I did not have already. And the only reason I had them is because for years I've been going to therapy classes, I've been going to counselors, and I've been going to different classes. I've had my parents constantly helping me out every step of the way, whereas other people may not have had that. Maybe you're adopted, maybe you guys are just learning about your disability, and that's okay. But to be honest, the class I was in, I'm only 32 years old, which is not really old by most people's standards. But there's only one other person in the class who was close to my age. He was 33 years old. The rest of the class were high schoolers. So bear that in mind. They may differ depending on the area you're in. I actually live in Tennessee, so there's not a whole lot, unfortunately, disability help for me personally here. I know where the buildings are, and I've been to all of them practically, except for a few. But I'm going to talk about sort of the good sides and the bad sides to the W.R.A.P class from my perspective. Everybody may have a different view of these things, or some of it may actually seem like something you need that you've not even considered about. So keep an open mind as we go through this. I'm going to say if this class would be helpful to you if you're just starting out dealing with disability, if you have to create a plan or you don't have a plan to help guide you to where you want to go in life, that if you don't know what kind of job you can have or what kind of help you might need, or the people, you don't have a set core people that you can call on when you need help. If you go to the hospital or if you have a mental breakdown and you don't have somebody like you could that they can call and give you a ride home or whatever, they can help take care of your house when you've got a depression. If you don't have those things, this class will help you figure those things out. It might take a little bit and it'll be a little weird, but it'll help you get there. And the common things, there's a couple of things they actually will talk about that they dealt with in the class itself. They call one thing called a wellness toolbox. And everybody knows what a toolbox is. It has all the stuff you might need to fix something. And a wellness toolbox is the same thing, but for you. For a personal toolbox of things that you could pull out to use to fix stuff in your real life. It could be a person, it could be your own personalized plan that you've come up with, but and excuse me if I'm looking up and down, I've actually had to write all my stuff down because I'm not an improv person. Because of my disability, you're not going to see me doing improv comedy on a stage. It's just not going to happen. I have to have a script, and I'll have to keep looking down at it. So that's just my problem there. But the Wellness Toolbox is where you can write down everything that you personally can do to keep yourself well physically and emotionally. That means if exercising would be a good idea, or if you need 5-10 minutes out of your day where you could just lay down in a very quiet room and just chill. Just cut off all the noises, put on some headphones, read a book, whatever it is, put in earplugs, depending on where your working is or where you're actually going around in your day, especially if you're going to go out in public and you're grocery shopping or something, if you are able to go out with people like that. Some can't, I know. You have to write down how you're feeling when you're well. Like, what is your defining traits of I'm well, I'm okay right now. Things you're grateful for. Again, to me, that was very sort of elementary, but it's a good reminder to have something that's very well. Things that might trigger you for negative reactions. A lot of us sometimes have troubles figuring out what really makes us feel bad. Is it something that has no precedent? Because some people with depression it just happens. They do not have a specific trigger that causes depression. I'm one of those people where I can come up with a good reason why I'm depressed. In my mind, I can come up with all these really bad things that have gone on during the moment. But if I honestly go back and think about it, I can't pinpoint why I started crying. It just happens. And it's more of an internal issue than it is an external one, which is why it's almost impossible to control unless you have a system set up, like I tend to do, to help yourself cope with your depression as it happens, to know when to step back and when to get back out there again. Then they also help you create a plan that when these triggers go off, what do I do? As I said, I've got my own plan that I have set up years in the making. It took me throughout high school and throughout college, even after college, to get it all lined up and to get people to agree to it, because it took me years to get myself heard, even by my own parents and my own family, because I'm for a good example of this is one of my triggers is being touched. I know it sounds kind of weird and it sounds very vague, but if somebody were to come up and just hug me, even if I kind of know them, like if I've seen them at church a lot or at the grocery store and they want to give me a hug, I am very I have a giant personal bubble where you have to stay out of my personal space. Don't come touch me unless I initiate the hug. If I initiate it, great, go for it, big old bear hug, great. But I prefer to be the one to initiate. That way I feel more in control and I'm not as stressed out. Because if you just hug me normally, I just feel cramped and I've, got to get away, got to run away. And that really triggers my anxiety and my stress and all that stuff. And I just have to leave. Even if I'm not in a place, in a position where I can leave. Like if I have somebody who's driving me somewhere. So I have to, let, my sort of, plan for that trigger is literally I have to be more proactive and let people know, hey, unless I come up to you and say, hey, can I have a hug? Please just don't hug me. I can, about the far as I can go is a handshake. And I've had other people who have been proactive for me, like my mom, my dad on occasion, some friends of mine that have gone out and said, hey, just, if she doesn't come up and give you a hug, don't worry about it. She's not, being standoffish. She's not being a prude or anything like that. She is just needs her space. Wait till she approaches you and it'll be fine. Going on. The next step was positive thinking. Now, I'll get to this in a little bit later in the video about how annoying this actually was to me. But positive thinking can help to a degree, but does not fix all. It just doesn't go away because you are happy or want to be happy. Because people with depression do want to be happy. They can genuinely be happy people. But just having a positive outlook doesn't make it go away. It doesn't make it easier. It's just, you can appreciate the times that you have, and that's about it. But I'll get to that more later. Also, early warning signs when you're starting to have trouble. And this is different than knowing when you have a trigger, but this is after you've been triggered and it starts to get really bad, where you might have some more physical issues that are, if you've ignored your triggers and you've not done what you needed to get to a safe place, and now you've let yourself go too far, and you might start tearing up, you might start getting really angry, you might get even more moody, whatever it is for you that lets you know you are going down your slippery slope. That's that area. Plans for, stopping, how to take care of yourself, how to get that halted. And then, along with that, it's a sign things are really breaking down, that you are on the road to, there's nothing I can do to fix this now. I'm just, I'm right there at, I'm going to have a complete physical, emotional breakdown, and people just better scatter when I do, because it's not going to be pretty, and so on and so forth. There are a multitude of things that they go through on these things. If, the things I've listed off on this list, is something you've already dealt with, I encourage you to go find another class, or to be very proactive and very stern in telling your worker, whoever you're going with, that this kind of thing isn't really something that you believe is going to benefit you to the extent that you need to, because this class itself is expensive. I was told that they will pay for it, because that's their job. If you're working with a Voc Rehab, they pay for all this stuff, and they don't expect you to pay them back, which is it's great. So if you need a computer for work or for school, they will just buy it for you. It'd be probably a very basic bottom of the line computer, but it'll be a computer that works. But this class is $200 a person. They do not supply lunch. They do have a lunch break, but they expect you to bring your own lunch. They expect you to be prepared for that. They expect you to have all your, because they give you a little book and a little notebook. They expect you to bring all this stuff, and they expect you to become prepared. They don't tell you that in the little brochure they give you for W.R.A.P, which is something, I found out after the fact. And this class itself is not like a 2-hour class. I literally had to be there from around 9 a.m. to around 2 p.m. or longer. I think it was 2 to 4 in the afternoon. And it was a 3-day class. So you're there for 3 days doing all this stuff. And if you're not a morning person, it can be hard. And I'm really, really not a morning person. But I made it. I survived. I was stressed out and crazy and just out of my mind. But I made it. But yet, this class, in my personal opinion, is not specifically geared for Aspies like myself that are on the higher functioning end. I can say that maybe on the low functioning end, I don't know people who are on that end of the spectrum that need, more help with that. But there might be, and this class might work for them. But if you're on the sort of the higher functioning where you've gone to college and you may have a degree, or if you've already been in a job for a while, this is really not something that it would be good for you. If you're out of the job or whatever, it's really something you kind of take, yourself and do your own research. Don't just take somebody's word for it. You need to be proactive about your own personal disability and the way you run it. Because my mom and I have done research, and there were other classes that were similar to this, but were more specifically geared for people who were Aspies, and it dealt with the social side of things more, and not just the fact that you're not intelligent. Because Aspies, the general consensus about somebody who's in that category is somebody who actually is quite smart. It's just in maybe one or two areas. They don't, can't do a general knowledge. I actually envy those of you guys who probably are really, really good at math. You are just whizzes in math and science and things like that. I, on the other hand, am more on the creative, the artistic, the English, the history side of things, the music side. And if you put me in math classes, I have a math deficiency, which essentially means I need a tutor for every level of math, save for the most basic, like, multiplication, is even hard for me. I need a calculator for that kind of stuff. But adding, subtracting, great, I can balance a checkbook. But outside of that, I'm completely lost. But, and again, it's all based on what you think is going to be good for you. If any of this sounds great, that you need this as part of your life, go for it, give it a shot. I'm sure you will have a better experience about it than I did. But if it starts to sound a little, maybe not right, maybe you need to, again, do the research and look at it more in depth yourself, and find other people who probably have gone through this experience and get their opinions on it. For me, I've had, again, extensive use of therapy in my past 5-10 years of life. I've read constantly about multiple books about my disability. I've even written my own perspective on disability, which I'm still working on, and people have given me very positive reviews on, and saying, hey, you need to get this published, which I am going to work on. I promise that. I have a really hard time following through, but we're getting there. But in short, for me, from my personal opinion, I was so bored in this class. I felt like as a college student who was forced to go back and start over at preschool. And if you could imagine yourself as a grown adult you made it through college, you got the degree, and now they tell you have to go back to preschool, have nap times, which to me actually nap time sounds great, but you're coloring in pictures, you're doing basic math, you're doing basic English, there's hand puppets, and it's all very sort of basic. And I pretty much spent the majority of my time in that class not taking any notes, which they wanted you to do. I actually was writing out a little script for this vlog I'm doing right now, and I was working on a book of Sudoku game that I actually like playing to fill my time up with. I really wasn't paying that much attention unless they called for me to have attention for some sort of game, which they did. There was some games involved, and a lot of interpersonal games. Because even now as I sit here, I can go now back to sort of the positive reinforcement side. I could hear the teacher in my head, that the lady who was there talking, saying, you need to stop thinking negatively. Think positively. It'll make all the difference. I actually did a tally. And from around 12 p.m. to 3 p.m., I made a tally of how many times she used the word positive in reference to it would make a difference in your life, that it will change your outlook, it'll make you not as sad, it'll make you not as anxious. Just anytime she used the word positive. And she used that word 8 times in 8 different sentences in reference to that general knowledge. And that was just out of one day. And that wasn't even from the beginning of class. There were still 3 hours ahead of that where I was sitting there having to listen to her go positive, positive, positive. And I could hear it in my sleep. And it drove me nuts. Because I am genuinely a very positive person. I honestly want the best things out of life and really want to be a positive and happy person. But I know that doesn't fix everything. That if being positive fixed everything, there wouldn't be as many problems in the world we have right now, because there are a lot of positive people out there, a lot of good organizations, a lot of good music and actors and directors that are also positive and heartwarming and want to make you feel better about yourself. And they just, it doesn't make everybody else feel better. So, just give me a moment. Now, yeah, I decided, and again, like I said, I did a tally of these notes, and that was just the last day. I wanted to do it all 3 days, but I didn't realize until about day 2 how many times I had heard it and how overboard it was. And so I didn't get a chance to do it for all 3 days, unfortunately. I wish I had. It would have been so amazing. I probably would have had a much bigger number than I do right now. But another reason I was constantly bored in this class was because they were doing activities that, again, to me they seem very preschool, childlike activities. Now, I'm not saying that I don't mind, getting goofy once in a while. I color. I do adult coloring books. Yeah, I know. It's probably not something you expected to hear from a lot of people, because it's such a popular thing these days. But if ever, I'm sure almost everybody out there has heard of the M&M game. And if you haven't, I don't know where you've been. I don't know what rock you're living under. But the M&M game is a game that I think 90% of humanity has played at some point when they've joined a new group, have been in a class for college or high school or wherever, where they give you a little packet of individual M&Ms, just a little single one. Open it, tell you to open it and dump out your M&Ms, and each color of M&Ms, if you have, let's say 4 reds and 5 greens and, all these different color M&Ms, that for each color that you have to, for reds, let's say, you have to say, how for how many reds you have, you just say positive, things that you like about yourself, or, hobbies that you have, or, something. It's a way of introducing yourself to everybody else in whatever group it is that you're doing this as a part of. I have done that game so many times that all I want at that point is just the candy. Just let me eat M&Ms. Forget about doing the game. Let me just eat the candy. I want the chocolate. Really. And then, writing down the grateful list. I'm like, I know what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful just to be alive, first off, and living in America and having opportunity to do what I can and go to college and have friends and being able to vlog, because this is just huge on so many levels. Then, there's just so many other games that she came up with, and I'm sure it probably will differ per class you're in. I'm sure it's all different, but it is a genuine possibility of something that could happen when you go to this class. And, the entire time I was there, I used to have a notebook that they gave us full of all these different pieces of paper, where all the things that we were going to go through. And, by the way, in the front, it actually had a thesaurus, a sort of, entry that said, these are all the things that I want to go through and stuff. And you expect that if you get an agenda and something from your teacher that says, here's the subjects stuff we're going to cover on this subject, for this period, you expect to touch on all of them, at least a little bit. I can honestly say that when I was in that class, she only managed to follow the outline that she gave us for day 1. She managed to hit everything on day 1. Day 2 and 3, because she spent so much time on other things, we didn't hit the other things in the thing. So you didn't get all the information that was in the book to do. Oh, pardon me. Dry throat. I'm sorry. This is what talking too much does to me. Really why I don't like talking in public. It's just, goodness gracious. And, the entire time I was there, I just kept thinking, I wish this was over. I wish I could go home and go to sleep or whatever and just go about my life. Because it in my personal opinion, it really wasn't the best idea. I tried to convince my Voc Rehab counselor that this just wasn't the good idea. And despite that, she told me I should go, I needed to go, but never answered my primary question, which I wanted to have answered. Which I think, if you're starting to doubt whether or not this class is a good idea for you, ask this question and make them answer it. Is this a class I'm required to take under my Voc Rehab program that has been set out for me? Because I never got an answer to that question. I never was told whether it was something I was required to do by her, or whether this was something where they thought, hey, we haven't done anything with this person in a while. We need to put our hours in, so let's just throw her in this class and look, we've done a thing for her. We've spent money on her. We spent $200 for this class on her. We were doing our jobs. Here, can we have our paycheck now? I kind of got that vibe because that question was never answered. She avoided the question more often than not, which sort of, again, it set off sort of alarm bells in my head, like, hello. And this was even after we told her, we had been told months ago that at Vanderbilt University, in their disability department, they actually have a class for Aspies that helps you, deal with your symptoms and figure out what's best for you. And everybody who goes there either has it or knows somebody who does, or what, and you can get real advice from people who know what they're talking about. And we were saying maybe this would be a better idea for them. Could you explain why this W.R.A.P class is a better idea than this other one? And I don't know how much the Vanderbilt class cost. It may cost the same, it may cost more, may cost less. But if they're willing to go out of their way and buy a computer, those aren't cheap. Just a basic bottom-of-the-line one can run you at least $1,000 for a laptop. Even more if you're going for a desktop. You all go out there and see the prices. You know how expensive computers can be. But again, going back to the W.R.A.P stuff, I can see where certain parts of that are helpful, can be helpful. In the very back of the book is something she just touched over, but there's nothing really she could teach anybody about that. They actually had 5 or 6 sheets of paper that were in the back of the book. They had lines on it in different states, and they had spaces on it for, okay, who are my medical doctors? Who are my mental health doctors? Who is all my emergency contacts and their phone numbers and their relationship to me? Who do I need to help take care of my house if I end up in the hospital? Who's going to feed my animals? Who's going to, take care of my lawn? Who's going to take out my garbage? Who's going to take care of those things? So when I get back to my house, I don't come into something that looks like it should be on the Hoarder show on TV. And make my life easier for me after I've had a mental breakdown. What are my medications? Which ones do I take for which reasons? What are my doses? How many times a day am I supposed to take these things? So if I'm incapable of letting somebody know these things for one reason or another, it's out there. And you could literally take those out of the back of the book, fill it all out, take it to the bank, have it notarized so it becomes an official document that you can have notarized, and it could be official. It says, this is my personal request and my and my plan for what needs to happen depending on what situations I'm in. And if you've not done that, it's a thing that you don't need the class to do. You could do this on your own. You could get it, have somebody help you type it on a computer and put all these things down in it and go have it notarized. Have an official document, have you guys sign it, you and a witness, and get it all set up, because it's a good plan for anybody to have, especially if you have a diagnosed disability. For years, my mom and I have already had one set up. We know who I'm going to end up with, should she die, because I can't currently live on my own. It's just not financially and mentally possible for me to get out there immediately on my own. This is why I'm still living with my mother. So if you are living with your parents still, don't worry about it. I'm still there too. Don't worry, it's okay. We'll be there together. But if any of the rest of that, if, many other people with disabilities sounds great, if, learning about different tools of how to diagnose your triggers and when you're about to have a mental breakdown and how you can take care of those, and, all these different things like that sound like a good idea. Sound like, hey, something I don't even know. Give the class a try. Don't knock it. Yes, it seems like a long time you're sitting there, but it's only 3 days long, and you're not even, in the last day, you're not even there the whole time. You get like 2 hours cut off the end of it, and you have a party with cake and all this stuff, and you get to meet people, and, all these things like that. So, really, it's all going to be a very personal experience, and that's what it should be, is a personal experience for you. In my personal experience, though, it was the second biggest waste of time I've ever been through. I'm sorry to say that I did it. I went through something that wasn't that comfortable for me, and I dealt with it. I found my ways to deal with it, and still pay attention, still be part of the class. But I was very aptly aware I had these tools already. I had my tool bag already full when I brought it into class with me, sort of mentally. And I go, okay, I have these things already. I'm not really going to get much more out of this class than I've already gotten, except the fact I've gotten out of the house today longer than I ever have in a while to do something other than go shopping for groceries or go take garbage to the dump or look for jobs or whatever. So that's the positive thing I got out of it. It's just getting out of the house, which is, again, I'm very much a homebody. I like being at home. I'm comfortable being at home. I didn't make any lifelong friends there, though that could possibly happen if you find somebody there. But in my experience, when I was there, a lot of the people there already knew each other because they were either going through the Vocational Rehab program that was in the back of the building we were in, where you go there daily and they teach you about job hunting and all this stuff and give you skills to be applicable to when you go and have your interviews and all this stuff, or they went to school together and, they go to high school or whatever. And, it was sort of I felt very on the outside of everything. I didn't feel like a part of a group. I just sort of felt like, I'm here. I was told to be here. I got nothing. So, but I did, follow along. I did take part. I will admit, I did laugh at certain points. But again, I'm very giggly. I laugh at a lot of things. Those laugh challenges online, I almost, it almost breaks me sometimes. I managed to defeat him. I'm not that giggly, but when something funny happens, I'm probably gonna laugh. That's just a natural reaction to somebody who's got a good sense of humor. So, in the end, rap. It's not really something that's gonna be for everybody, unfortunately, and while I would have liked it to work out for me, there's probably a better class out there for me. And I'm just going to have to go find it somewhere if that's something I want to do. But right now, I think the best thing I could say is I went, I did it, I got through it, I survived, I wasn't mortally injured or, mentally harmed in any way. It was all just sort of very Anyway, that's all I got time for this this round. I will, hopefully, if I can keep my scheduling, I will be back next Saturday. I plan on doing talks about ASPE stuff, mental disability stuff every Saturday. I might deviate slightly about that because there's some, like, in the news topics I like talking about occasionally that I think, other people should know about. But for the most part, this will be about Asperger's stuff and autism and mental disability and tips and tools and advice I could give from my own perspective. And they may work for you guys, they may not, but I hope to at least help some people during their daily lives to show that there is life even with somebody who has a disability. So, I hope y'all enjoyed what you got to see today, and if anything was helpful, I'm glad it helped. And I hope to see you guys next time around. And until then, stay strong out there.